Trae Young is a better player than Steph Curry.
That might be true, but Devin Booker is going to have a better career. I promise you that.
Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast.
Edition of the Sports Buffoon Studios over here. We got Tanner Dawson, Jason JG, and Mike Settle here running it. How's it going, guys?
What's going on, everybody?
What's up, yo?
How do you feel about doing this on a different day of the week this week? This is interesting. We've never done a show on a Thursday before.
This has really thrown me off. I tell you what, I swear today was all day Wednesday, and I did not want to go back a day in the week.
Yeah.
It's working out well for me so far because I got less drunk today than I normally do on Wednesdays, so I'm happy about it so far.
Less drunk because it's a Thursday?
Because it's a Thursday, because you're always gearing up for Friday, and so you try to ease off of it a little bit on Thursdays.
Interesting.
I tend to go like a slide almost, where it's like I gradually drink more throughout the week. So it's almost like Monday and Tuesday pretty clean. Wednesdays we get a little dirty. Thursday, Friday we get wild. So I don't know. That's just always been my style, I guess. But hey, the good news is, you guys, we've had some damn good NBA playoff basketball here over the past few days, and for the first time, honestly, for me in a long time, I care a lot about the outcomes of these games right now. And we have our, supposed top dogs out of the mix at the moment. But I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I know you guys are as well. This is a different kind of NBA season as far as in the playoffs to me, because as you guys know, I don't care about the regular season. I don't waste time on all that. I care about what's going on right now currently with these teams that are left involved. We got the Hawks, the Bucks, Suns, Clippers. That is our remaining 4 teams right now in the NBA.
Wait, did you not say LeBron James or Steph Curry or Kevin Durant? Is that what you just told me?
I think I skipped over all those guys.
Did you forget them?
Holy
maybe
hell,
even the 76ers?
Woo, that is just wild. Maybe that's why I'm having so much fun right now.
Are we in the playoffs?
I feel like this is a playoff of underdogs, which is what I'm living. But we're going to jump into some NBA talk, you guys. We're going to talk about the Royals for a little bit. We're going to play a little game with you guys. We're going to do a little trade or keep, or I guess cut. Is another option here in a little bit with the Royals. And then we're going to talk about a little bit of Frank Clark here towards the end of the show as well. So obviously the Chiefs have some thinking to do when it comes to the future of Frank Clark with the team long-term, as well as this current season coming up as well. Good news is, you guys, training camp schedule came out.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
August 5th is what we're looking to go towards.
That's
is that
our
right?
date. Yep, that's our date.
We are hoping to go August 5th out to training camp up in St. Joe, Missouri, and we are hoping that, if you guys leave a comment here with us, go ahead and like and subscribe, and leave a comment with us. We'd love to meet up with a fan, sit with you guys, talk with you guys, go over some things about the Chiefs while we sit there and just take in finally being back at training camp once again. So I'm super excited. You guys pumped for that?
Oh, man, I'm so ready to go.
I'm ready for the wineries.
The wineries.
We go to wineries after that shit.
Jason's most excited about the wineries.
Look, I'm just excited to get back up there and see the team, see just see these new faces too up close, and just enjoy it. Like I'm not gonna take advantage of it.
That year off last year sucked because we're getting used to going every year.
Yeah, we at least went once every year.
At least once every year, make our drive up there, take time off work, and make time for it. So, but before we dive in too much here to the NBA, guys, I did have a question thinking about some of the cool things of sports ball coming up right now. Obviously, NFL's around the corner. NBA's in full swing. MLB's at midseason, or close to it at least. So what's your favorite sports movie of all time?
I have to go Jackie Moon, right? Jackie Moon.
What is a Jackie Moon?
That would be Semi-Pro. With Andre 3000.
Oh, okay. Semi-Pro. Okay. I wasn't sure where you're going with that.
Oh, man. I can't even know Jackie Moon, the coach, the player, the owner. It was a great movie. I thought it was really hilarious.
Might as well go dodgeball there, Tanner.
I thought about dodgeball, but I just think this is better than dodgeball. Dodgeball's too mainstream. But it has some great points in it. So I'm going to go Semi-Pro with Jackie Moon, the best owner, player, manager out there.
All right.
Yeah, Semi-Pro is great. I really enjoyed that movie. I'm going to have to go with The Waterboy as my favorite sports movie of all time with Adam Sandler.
Yes.
Because it's the movie that it would never happen in real life, but you really wish that it could happen. I would love to see something like that play out in real life. So that's my personal favorite, but I did watch on the plane the other day the movie called The Way Back with Ben Affleck. It was a basketball movie. And that was actually one of the shittiest sports movies I've ever seen in my life because all he did, Ben Affleck just got drunk the entire movie. I was like, that could be a good movie for some people, but I didn't really get too much enjoyment out of it.
It was nothing like Coach Carter or anything like that.
No.
That was too serious, Tanner. We can't have that.
Coach Carter is serious.
It was basically the same thing.
But that's what Ben Affleck was supposed to be.
But he was drunk the whole time.
It was the same thing as Coach Carter, except he was drunk.
He was drunk the entire time.
And I thought it was a terrible movie.
Dude.
Now, how do you compare? Because I have a favorite from Adam Sandler as well. That's Happy Gilmore. I mean, that's also an amazing movie. Waterboy, Happy Gilmore, both incredible movies. So sports-wise, those are up there for me. My serious one, just throw it out there, is Brian's Song. I loved Brian's Song about Brian Piccolo and your KU guy over there, Mr. Gale Sayers, Tanner. That was the story of their relationship growing up, or not growing up, but joining the Chicago Bears together. And the old quote, which I really thought was interesting at one point, was whenever Brian Piccolo, who ended up dying of cancer, said to Gale Sayers at one point when they're competing for a battle, was that you may be able to take the ball 80 yards in one run, but I can take the ball 10 yards 8 times. And it all adds up the same way. So that was his theory. But obviously, as we know, the Kansas comment was probably a little bit more efficient and productive than Brian Piccolo really was.
Yeah, can I just change my answer real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I changed my mind on my answer because...
You changed Waterboy.
Technically, martial arts is a sport, and so I'm going to have to go with Beverly Hills Ninja featuring Chris Farley. That is the greatest sports movie of all time. Only slightly better than the movies that we just talked about.
Oh, I was watching Tommy Boy today, so that fits right into my schedule today.
The late, great Chris Farley. I wonder what he'd be doing right now if he was still alive. What do you think he'd be like a serious actor all of a sudden? He'd like switch over from
he'd have
comedy?
He'd be above Adam Sandler level.
He'd probably be doing a movie with the Waterboy.
It'd probably be a sequel.
They would have a collaboration there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, anyways, I'm glad we got that out of our systems because I need to get back to watching some more sports movies because it has been a while since I've sat down and found a good one. I think it seems like all the greats are, in the past as of right now. So I did hear they're making a movie about Kurt Warner, you guys. Are you aware of that?
I am not.
Yes. Coming out.
As being a cart boy and all?
It is coming out next year, Tanner. The whole story of Kurt Warner's life and career coming out next year. And I saw the actors list. They found a guy to play Dick Vermeil. They played, obviously, the Kurt Warner actor and so on. But looking forward to that. It's going to be real cool.
That'll be interesting.
So, anyways, you guys, let's move on to our NBA discussion of the evening here. And we obviously just went through a great week of games overall. I was super pumped about everything. But let's kick it off. We just saw the Hawks beat the Bucks. 116 to 113 was the score of that game. Trae Young dominated absolutely, and he put up how many points, Jason?
Trae Young put up a 48 burger, as we say it in fantasy land.
Real quick,
solid.
I'm pretty sure the stat was he was responsible for 78 of the 116 points of the Atlanta Hawks.
As far as had some kind of ball.
Correct.
So
he
there's an assist.
So it could be an assist. It could have been something in that matter. But he was responsible for 78 of that 116 points.
That's phenomenal. He's a great all-around player, absolutely, and he's only 22 years old. But Jason and Tanner, let me know what you guys thought about this game we just witnessed.
I mean, what can you say? Like the Bucks, they got to get something together here. You're not beating Trae Young if you're gonna play like this. You just got off the Brooklyn Nets series, who went all the way to 7, and you come out and you can't beat this Hawks team. Like there's something wrong here. You are the higher seed. You are the better team, but they didn't play like the better team. Did they, Jason?
I just think the Bucks took the day off.
You think it was a day off?
They took the day off. I mean, Trae Young. I mean, he's gonna show up every game. Like I'm a big believer in Trae Young. He put up 48 points. He's not going to do that every game, But at the same time, John Collins isn't going to put up 23 and 15 every game either. John Collins had a great game on the road.
Mm-hmm.
John Collins is a role player. They don't normally play that well on the road. So, John Collins isn't going to do that every time. Trae Young, he's going to come back down to earth, even if that means putting up 30
I'm like, what?
to
You're talking about
35.
30?
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing that I'm saying that. But when Trae Young comes back down to earth, he might only put up 30 in the next game. The big problem for me in this series is that, Kevin Huerter had a great game in the previous closeout game before this series started. And he's not going to do what he did in that game every single time. I mean, he was 5 of 12 from the field for 13 points. Bogdanovich is injured right now, and I have a huge problem with that because he is in the starting lineup. He shot 1 for 6 and was 0 for 2 from 3. Now, if the Hawks are going to be able to sustain this performance, they're going to have to get him either bench his ass or get him out of the starting lineup, because I think for sure Danilo Gallinari should be in the starting rotation at this point, only because he's healthy.
Well, here's my worry, right, with this Hawks-Bucks series real quick. The 3-point percentage of this last game wasn't really going one way versus each other. Hawks shot 25, Bucks shot 22. And these are two teams that are pretty consistent on the 3-point. So now you're going into game 2 with neither team really shooting that great from 3-point land. So now both of them could blow up still, and we could see a similar game. We could see a similar situation possibly for 6 to 7 games this series of literally the last person scoring wins, because they seem to be pretty matched on. Even with rebounds, it was 51 to 45. But I think the 3-point percentage, which concerns me the most, is they each shot 8 3-pointers, right? 8 3-pointers. That's it. That's all they made of the whole game. And this is a team. These are teams that are pretty close to the 12 to 15 when they're spot on. So that's kind of something I was looking at as far as stats wise, was nobody blew up at the 3-point percentage.
That's a good point. And not only did they not blow up, but Chris Middleton shot 0 of 9 from the 3-point land and 6 out of 23 from the field. And he's playing at home. He only had 15 points.
Yeah.
So that's not something that you're going to see normally from a guy like Chris Middleton. So I hope that a lot of you out there aren't having this sort of knee-jerk reaction thinking that the Hawks are going to run away with this thing. I mean, I think the Bucks could still win this thing in 6 games, because Chris Middleton is basically a star player that he just had a bad game.
Okay, now one last on this Bucks Hawks series here. Do you believe the free throws in period, is going to be the downfall for the Bucks this series?
No, I don't think free throws play that big of a deal in this particular series.
Okay.
The Bucks, although, have been a great defensive team all year, and that's kind of why I give them the edge. PJ Tucker is a great defender. He only gave him like 4 points. You can usually depend on PJ Tucker to give you more on the offensive side. But my bigger issue is for the Hawks right now. I know that they're ahead in the series 1-0, but for me, I don't want them to get relaxed just because they won a road game. They need to keep their foot on the gas right now, because if Bogdanovich is not healthy right now, they need to get him out of there. They need to put Sweet Lou Williams into the 6-man role. So if you throw Gallo into the starting lineup and Sweet Lou as the 6-man, you could still, keep your head afloat in this series and possibly make this a 7-game series. But we don't know what's going on with Bogdanovich right now. He's a great shooter, but if he's not healthy 100%, the Hawks are going to have a difficult time overall in this series. I still have the Bucks winning in 6 or 7 games, but if you want me to put a percentage on it right now, I'd say the Atlanta Hawks have a 20% chance at winning the series.
All right.
Wow, 20% even starting off 1-0.
Chance. And that's not bad. They still have a 1 in 5 chance. That's a pretty decent chance.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. I hear you.
Okay.
Now, obviously, that game we have many more to go within that series. That was obviously just one game. So, but here's the other thing: we already now, as of tonight, going into Game 3 of the Phoenix Suns and Clippers game. And so this is actually going on right now as we speak live here. But obviously, you guys will be hearing this the next day following here on Friday morning. Thank you all for listening. But this last game with the Phoenix Suns was absolutely incredible. I've enjoyed watching the ride so far of the Suns. And I was actually sitting up by myself because I wanted to watch this game so bad. I left my ping pong duties to go watch this game on my own. And the ending right there, Jay Crowder inbound, throwing the inbound to DeAndre Ayton for the dunk with 0.7 seconds left in the game and just slamming it in. I thought it was over. I thought it was 103-102, Clippers win. Suns end up winning on an inbound throw to DeAndre Ayton.
Yep,
absolutely nuts.
Don't forget Devin Booker in the screen that he put up for Andre Ayton.
Absolutely. Devin Booker is amazing.
That's being unselfish. That's a team player.
Devin Booker is amazing. He is a team player. I love everything about him. But I mean, for me, I'm gonna let you guys take over here in a second with this. But all it came down to me was the Suns scored 60 points in the paint and only 30 points for the Clippers in the paint. And so at the end of the day, when you're scoring that well down low like that, I mean, you're gonna end up winning the game more often than not. I mean, if you look across the board, 3-pointers, the Suns were horrible. 6 of 26. Are you kidding me? That's not doable. Well, the Clippers were much more average, around 13 of 34. And so it's like, okay, where did they win the game here? Because the game was won down low on the inside, getting that down to Jay Crowder, Devin Booker making plays in the paint, things like that. That's how they won that game. And here we are walking in. Chris Paul is now back from his COVID protocol. And we're going to see what happens here tonight. But I'm expecting the Suns to win this game, or win the series, I should say, in 5 games, personally. But you guys tell me your thoughts on what's going on here.
It's a great question to ask. How did they win that game? And obviously it was a great play by Ayton there at the end. But when you ask me that question, how did they win that game? You got to look at the Clippers side first. You had Paul George, even though he had 26 points, he just bricked 2 free throws at the end. To me, that cost them the game, coupled with the fact that the only guy on the Clippers side that did anything in the game was Reggie Jackson, who had 19 points, but the role players didn't give you anything. And that is something that is not going to happen when they come back to Staples Center in this Game 3 and Game 4.
I have a question real quick, Jason, before you move on with this. But now Paul George has now had 7 consecutive postseason games with 25 or more points. And that is his longest streak of his entire career. Is he due for a regression, or is he going to continue this pace?
He's got to do more. I mean, he's got to do more.
I think he continues.
He has to put the team on his back, because if he doesn't, they're done. I mean,
he's forced in that situation.
And so the other guy I look at in this series is the fact that Terrence Mann, who had his coming out party earlier this year in the playoffs, he had 8 points in that last game. So Terrence Mann, is the quote unquote next man up. And so, his last name is Mann. What do we always say? It's next man up. So it is Terrence Mann's turn to show up. He couldn't show up when they were on the road in Phoenix, but now it's being played in Staples. And so I expect big things from Terrence Mann in games 3 and 4. But to your question, Mike, Paul George, he can't just continue the streak that he's on right now. He's got to do more, because there's no Kawhi Leonard. You look at a guy like Paul George. He's no spring chicken. He's been in the league forever. So he's sitting there. He's trying to make a name for himself. He's never done anything in terms of making it to the finals or winning championships.
He's always been a good player, right? But not quite, the top level.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a star or a superstar, whatever you want to call him, but it's his time. I mean, he reminds me of Giannis Antetokounmpo, although Paul George has been in the league a lot longer than Giannis. Mm-hmm. But this is their year. If you're sitting there in their shoes, this is the year to make it happen. There's no LeBron standing in your way.
No Steph Curry.
But Paul George he's the older guy, and so he's got to leave everything on the court. I know that's a cliche, but it's never meant more to anybody than it means to Paul George right now.
How much does it mean to Chris Paul too on the other side of this? Because also a guy who's aging, and a guy who wants to get a legacy here. And, he's even older than Paul George.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is his time as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I
Two
mean,
guys fighting for the same thing. That's what makes it great.
CP3 has a lot to prove. There's no question about it. And there's a lot of talk out there about the fact that this is going to be a revenge game for CP3, and they think he's just going to destroy his old team in his first game back. And that might be true. I could see a scenario where CP3 puts up 25 points and they still lose because all these role players, they've been blowing up. I still consider DeAndre Ayton to be a role player.
Really?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't prove anything until you show up on the road. And DeAndre Ayton has had a couple of great games, but I want to see what he's going to do on the road. And my opinion or my prediction is that a lot of these Suns role players, they're not going to do shit in this game tonight because they're playing on the road. And so it's going to be all up to CP3 and Devin Booker. And so I'm picking the Clippers to win this game. I still think it's going to be a 7-game series. I do think the Suns will ultimately win the series, but I'm not buying into this whole people saying, oh, it's going to be a sweep, it's over, the Clippers should just pack it up and, hang their heads beneath their, next to their tail or whatever. This is going to be a long series because the most important stat I can throw out there is that the Clippers have been down 2-0 in both of the first 2 rounds of the playoffs this year, and they came back to win. That's never happened before in the history of the NBA. So here they are again. They're down 2-0. Do you really think they're scared right now? No.
But keep in mind, Jason, you're playing against the best road team in the NBA this season in the Suns.
Yeah, they're the best road team, but are you taking into account just the regular season or the playoffs?
Both, because they haven't lost or haven't. Yeah, in the playoffs at this point. So
yeah, I'm not buying into it. I mean, especially when you have a guy like Pat Beverly. I understand that this is a revenge game for CP3, but if you poll all of the top point guards in the NBA, who is the one guy that you would least want to face playing against you on defense, I guarantee you they will all say Patrick Beverly. And so CP3 is just not going to get a free ride to the promised land here. He's going to have to deal with Pat Beverly. And Pat Beverly is going to make sure that he at least contains. He's not going to shut him down, but he's going to contain CP3 to the point where CP3 can't just take over the game. And that's why I'm picking the Clippers to win the game. I could easily see this being 2-2 going back to Phoenix.
Okay, here's what I got for you, Jason. Here's the reason why the Suns win the series in 5. Here's the reason why. It's the mentality of the team. The Suns know how to respond a whole lot better to challenges coming their way, such as CP3 going out for 3 games. They had Cameron Payne last game blew up 28 points.
Phenomenal game.
DeAndre Ayton had 24 points, and he had 14 boards, right? So these are 2 guys that have been kind of quiet, kind of sneaking in there. So you're going to have to have that. And, of course, Devin Booker did get hit in the nose. Was it fractured? Was that the case?
I think it's fractured. He's actually wearing a face mask today
so maybe
during
it's
the
not,
game. So he's going to have that plastic face guard over his
it might
eyes.
be, yeah, I guess it's fractured. But you guys still came back and scored 20 points, right? So, but they were without Booker for a little bit of a time. They didn't have Chris Paul.
Yep.
So all of a sudden they had to rely on some of these role players.
Payne was now your guy. Like Jay Crowder, Payne,
some of these
those are your
vets
guys all of a sudden.
to continue on. And yes, they won by 1 point, but that was without Booker and CP3.
Booker missed almost
for
an
a
entire
certain
quarter.
amount of time, right? And the Clippers couldn't capitalize on it. And you talked about it too. You talked about these role players. Reggie Jackson was the only one that pretty much showed up. Zubac had 14 and 11 boards, which wasn't bad. But, I mean, are you going to count on him to be consistent with that all the time? Probably not. Are your role players? The highest role player you had down is Luke Kennard with 10 points. Luke Kennard with 10 points. Like, come on. Like, what the hell is Luke Kennard going to do?
Well, I understand that, but you're making my argument for me because the same way that those Clippers role players didn't show up in Phoenix, they are now going to show up in LA the same way that a guy like Cameron Payne. I'll give you DeAndre Ayton, okay? Let's just say DeAndre Ayton gives you 15 and 9, okay?
Correct.
I'll give you that. Cameron Payne isn't going to do shit. in
No.
these next 2 games in
Now,
LA.
he
I
doesn't
can
need
promise
to
you
No,
that.
but he
That's
doesn't
the
need to
difference.
now. It's Devin, as long
difference
as
is
Devin
he doesn't
Booker
need to.
stays healthy
And Jason,
and Chris Paul comes in and plays Chris Paul
Booker,
game.
you said Booker sat out. He was only 5 of 16 anyway.
Yeah, but he
shot
sat
5
out
of
for pretty
16.
much a whole quarter. And these guys, the whole fact was that the Suns still won the game. Granted, it was a really cool play, but the Suns still were in the game the entire time. The Clippers aren't really smashing people, right? I mean, we see this without what's his name? What am I thinking of? Freaking
Leonard.
Thank you. Without Leonard, these guys aren't smashing anybody in the playoffs. They wouldn't smash the Hawks. They wouldn't smash the Bucks. They ain't smashing the Suns.
I think they can still smash people. I understand your argument. They don't have Kawhi. They can still smash teams defensively, though. Paul George is an elite defender. You understand? Patrick Beverly is not just
that's
elite.
2 players.
Pat Beverly is not just elite. He's the best point guard defender in the league.
That's 2 players.
You don't think those 2 guys can disrupt
No.
what
not
the
enough.
Suns want to do?
Not enough. Not enough.
Not just to get a game.
For a healthy.
We're talking about one game here.
I said 1 in 5. I said 1 in 5.
So what's
Suns
your
1 in 5.
Jason's whole point is that the Clippers win tonight.
Yes.
Which we'll know if he's going to eat his words or not because this is coming out on Friday morning.
This is a healthy Suns team, is what I'm saying.
We will know.
Chris Paul's coming back from a injury of COVID. He wasn't hurt by any means. He's coming back from a COVID situation. So the guy's coming in rested and healthy. This is a boost for the Suns more than anything because now you got confidence coming off the bench, and you got a healthy Chris Paul and a Devin Booker who will probably play the entire game with a face mask. I'm in. Why would the Suns not win this series? Unless Leonard comes back. Only reason
not going to happen in 5.
In 5. Leonard has to come back.
All right, guys, we're going to save the rest of this debate for next week when we know more information as time rolls on here. We'll see who's going to be eating.
Not going to happen in 5
words.
games.
I'm with Tanner. I got Suns in 5 personally, but we will see how things play out. Jason's been a little bit of a Suns hater here in the past month or so. We've been doing this. But then again, he's also a fan of the Spurs. Maybe that's why. But, all right, you guys. As we've been witnessing the improvements of Devin Booker over time and consistency as well. I mean, the guy is only 24 years old, been in the league now, drafted 13th overall back in 2015. And I've also seen on the other end here a guy who I wasn't that familiar with until recently, of the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young, who dominated, as we talked about, 48 points just in a recent game against the Bucks. I'm looking at both these guys, both around the same age, basically, and I'm comparing them a little bit. Both play point, or I guess shooting guard would be Devin Booker, point guard would be Trae Young. But for me, I'm thinking about who's going to have the better career between the 2 guys, and I love what Trae Young has actually done so far in his young career. In fact, last year, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but he became just the 5th player in NBA history to average at least 29 points per game and 9 assists per game in one season. There's only been 4 other guys to do that, and you're looking at names like James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Oscar Robertson, and Tiny Archibald. I was hoping Jason would help me out there, but he's the big old KC Kings fan.
Kansas City Kings.
But anyways, so that's just a phenomenal group to be in, especially at that young of an age. But I still sit there between the 2 things, and I have a lot to say about this for a moment, but I'm going to let you guys kind of debate for a moment, and I'm going to give my input. So who do you guys think long-term is going to have the better career between Devin Booker and Trae Young? Tanner, go.
Real quick, actually, I want Jason to start because I knew he was going to come more with the statistics and stuff, so I want to hear his side. But I kind of got my own thoughts coming up.
All right, okay. So before I give you my opinion on this, let's just roll through the stats real quick. So we're just going to talk with the 2021 season here. So Devin Booker, not to be confused with Devontae Booker of the NFL.
Fantasy football, Jason.
is shooting 48% from the field this year, 34% from 3. He's gone 25, 4, and 4. Trae Young is 44% from the field, 34% from 3, same as Booker. And he's gone 25, 4, and 9. So a lot more assists for Trae Young. And that tells me one thing, the fact that Trae Young is not necessarily a better scorer than Booker, but he's just as good of a scorer as Booker, and he's a much better playmaker because of the assists. And so I'm looking at a guy like Trae Young. He hasn't been in the league as long as Devin Booker, And my opinion, guys, is that the better career here is going to be for Trae Young. Now, they do play two different positions. You got a point guard versus a shooting guard, so it's hard to compare. But you got to keep in mind with Devin Booker, he's a guy that learned a lot from the late, great Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at both of these guys in this argument, Devin Booker, Trae Young, they are both cold-hearted killers in much the same way that Jordan and Kobe are. And if I have to line these guys up with a player, I feel like Devin Booker, since Kobe took him under his wing, I compare Devin Booker to Kobe, but I am comparing Trae Young to Jordan because I have seen the fire in his eyes. I've seen his competitive nature. And they both, don't get me wrong, they both have an immense desire to win. But when I look at Trae Young and the way he plays, he's got just a little bit more fire in his eye than Devin Booker. And so I think Trae Young's going to have the better career. And I think even up to this point in their careers, I think he's a better pound for pound player. He's only 6'1", but my gosh, when's the last time we saw a 6'1" guard put up 48 points in a game? It doesn't happen very often. So my vote is for Trae Young in this argument.
All right, I like that. And you gave stats is what I wanted. These are two very, very similar players, right? One maybe a little bit younger than the other. 22 versus 24, right? Devin Booker's 24. These guys have come from similar situations, right? We have the Hawks, who were nobodies until this year. They've always been jokes, pretty much, where dreams would go to die, is what we called them at times, right? We had the Phoenix Suns, where after Steve Nash left, they were pretty much nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were nothing. Devin Booker comes into play after being drafted, and they still can't get anywhere, right? The Hawks, Trae Young comes into play. Yeah, they did all right for he's on his third year, so 2 years. They didn't do nothing. They weren't playoff worthy and nothing. The GMs finally said, "Hey, let's make some moves. Let's go get Chris Paul. Let's go develop some of these rookies. Let's take care of these draft picks and actually draft it right." Now the Suns are in the playoffs. The Suns finished in the bubble, right? In the bubble, undefeated in the bubble. Still didn't make the playoffs because they were so bad before. But I think that's when it started clicking for the Suns. Now, as far as the Hawks weren't as great. I don't think they played very well. If anything, I don't think they played in the bubble, to be honest with you. But they had to figure something out. They went out and got Clint Capella. They went out and got Trae Young some help. These guys are in two similar situations. They cannot do it by themselves. We've seen that. Like, they could play. They could score 48 points a game. They could pull a Paul George in the Clippers right now. They can't do it by themselves. They needed help. That's why they're too similar. I think it's way too early to tell who's better than who will have a better career. I think they're pretty even at this point. They're both in the semifinals or the conference finals right now, and they're both looking very well that they could be in the finals versing each other before we know it. So I'm gonna go. I don't think one's better than the other right now. I think maybe Trae Young has a little bit more scoring opportunity, but Devin Booker has overall playing just positives on his game that he can shine at any moment. Trae Young, he can score at any moment. But I think he has to work on some defense.
Holding a gun to your head, what's your official answer here?
My official answer?
Yeah, when you have a gun to your head.
Oh, if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably go Trae Young.
So you're going with Trae Young. I just want to point one other thing out, Mike, before you go, and that is the fact that one of my favorite definitions of a superstar is when their game doesn't change when they play on the road. That's one of my favorite definitions of a superstar. What happens with Trae Young? He doesn't just play the same. He plays better. He embraces that villain role. You know, like when LeBron James went to Miami, they thought of him as a villain. Trae Young wants that. And so if you have a superstar that not only plays the same way but plays better on the road, that's going to be a problem for any team that plays against him.
You mean like Luka Doncic early in the Clippers series?
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah, you can bring Luka into the argument. That's for another day.
But no, if you had to hold a gun to my head, I'd probably go Trae Young, but it isn't very far. It's the slightest part of that, just because he is so dominant right now. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I like hearing what you guys have to say there about these two, and they are very similar, as you said, Tanner. In fact, they had almost identical numbers throughout the 2021 season. And for me, I looked at, basically Booker's stats coming out with a 484 field goal percentage, as well as a 340 from the three, and then averaged 25.6 points per game throughout the season. On Young's end of the spectrum here, we had a 438 field goal percentage, which is about 40, or I guess I should say 0.04% lower than Booker. And then literally identical 340 from the three. So they're identical, the exact same percentage so far this year.
Which is just insane because Trae Young is such a shooter. You don't think Devin Booker as that kind of shooter.
And yeah, exactly. And then Young for his points per game, 25.3. So it's 0.3% difference on their points per game as well.
It's just so similar.
The stats are almost exactly the same between these two guys. And I heard a little bit of what Jason was saying about the fire or the passion or whatever you want to call it. And I don't know, maybe we see things differently, but I see absolutely all of those same things in Devin Booker. I'm not saying Trae Young doesn't have those. I'm saying that Devin Booker absolutely does have a fire. I mean, when the guy left the game with a fractured nose, came back in, the guy was freaking pissed. I'm not going to lie. Watching him play, he was pissed off from what happened due to that dirty play from Beverly. And he came back and started dominating at the end of the game.
Speaking of which, he got pushed by Cousins for the screen for that game-winning playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't back away from Marcus Cousins, which most players would, actually, unless you're like 9 feet tall.
Yeah,
So, right.
And I tend to agree with you a little bit on that, Mike, just because I made the point that Trae Young, I think, is a little bit more of a playmaker because he averages 5 more assists per game. Well, let's be honest here. If you didn't have CP3 in that lineup, Devin Booker is going to get a few more assists in each game.
Devin Booker had a pretty good last few years with that CP3.
And I want to put this into perspective, too. The Suns this year are 5-0 without CP3. Let's think about that, too. Devin Booker can run this team on his own and be very good against very good teams.
Who closed out the Lakers series?
I mean, Booker was
Devin
the man.
Booker.
Devin Booker was the man. Devin Booker can lead a team. Devin Booker can be the star, the role, the leader, the elite of a team. When CP3 is gone, which is going to be very soon, Devin Booker is the man of that team. He's going to be productive and be the leader of that team going forward. Now, our topic here is obviously who's going to have a better career going forward. It's tough to say. I did a little bit of a numbers crunch here, but between the two players, back when they were both 22 years old to make it kind of equal, at least on age-wise, Devin Booker did end up with better statistics at 22 years old. Anyways, shooting at that point a 467 field goal percentage compared to a 438, like I said about Trae Young. And then also when it comes to three-point percentage as well, we were looking at 326 for Booker, and then it was 343. So it's similar still, but points per game still wise. Edge goes to Booker from that age group anyways. Booker obviously has 2 more years. We'll see what Trae Young does 2 more years from now to go from there. It's a tough call. It's definitely not an easy, obvious selection here between the two guys. I'll take the guy 6'5". I will take my Devin Booker to be having a better career. He's got more sample size than Trae Young has so far. So I already know what to base my information off of, whereas Trae Young has only had 3 years worth of going off of compared to 5 for Booker, which we know was on a pace to become one of the greats.
So just based on their mentality and what you've seen, you're saying Devin Booker is Jordan and Trae Young is Kobe?
I think that's not fair to compare. I would actually still compare Kobe to being a Devin in this case, but I would never say Trae Young's Michael Jordan.
No,
not at all. Not even close. That is so far from anything I would.
What if he gets a ring this year?
Then gets a ring. Good for him. That has nothing to do with Jordan, though. It's not a good comparison, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Thoughts? Anything else before we wrap up?
If you want to throw a Trae Young comparison out there, and this might be, you might be mad at me for this, but you're talking about playmaker. You're talking about Allen Iverson. If we're gonna throw anything to compare, I'd go Allen Iverson.
And I thought about bringing him up, and I think that based on what I've seen so far, Trae Young is a better version of Allen Iverson.
Yes.
Well, that would be amazing.
A more
you do know,
version.
you guys both understand what Iverson did to Jordan the first time he played against him. The killer crossover.
Yeah.
He destroyed Jordan. It was only one game.
It was one game, but it happened.
But Trae Young, based on what I've seen, he's not more athletic than Iverson, but he is a better version of Allen Iverson.
I'd say he's more complete within the basketball frame.
I want to see this so badly. This coming. I want to see the Suns win. I want to see the Hawks win. I want to see Trae Young versus Booker right now. I want to see them compete right now for the finals.
You
and that
may
would be
very well
amazing.
get your wish.
That would be incredible, and it'd be an amazing series between two up-and-coming superstars. So that is absolutely what I have in mind when it comes to the NBA playoffs this season, because I'm so glad we're not talking about LeBron James. We're not talking about LeBron.
Mike,
This year.
take a drink. Take a drink.
Shut your mouth. Wash your mouth out with soap. I don't want to hear that.
I'm just excited, you guys. All right, guys. Well, I'm glad we got that out of our systems. We obviously still currently have in front of us here the Suns game going on. It's basically tied. I think it's a 2-point difference. But anyways, you guys, we are obviously, as you know, based out of Overland Park, Kansas right now. We're following, obviously, Chiefs, Royals, and so on. That is our primary focus here on the show. I always want to reiterate that to all you guys out there that continue to watch, because when it comes time for NFL season to roll back around, we're a month away from training camp. We're a month and a half away from playing games. That's crazy to think.
It is.
I am excited. So the Chiefs will be at the forefront of our topics. But as of right now, let's discuss midseason baseball. The Royals are currently 33-40 after losing today to the Yankees 8-1. And also last night, Greg Holland gave up a home run to end the game as well when the Royals were up in the 9th inning. So I am very irritated with this team. I do not like this current team that we're dealing with right now. It's not fun to watch them. The pitching has me pissed every single day. Every day I wake up and I see who's going to be starting at pitching, and I'm pissed. I'm fucking pissed. And so basically Tanner had this idea for us today where we need to talk about a few guys, not necessarily in the pitching staff, because I'd say cut all of them just about. I cut Brad Keller. Get them all out of here.
But he threw 110 pitches.
I don't give a damn.
He had a great game.
Don't give
Mike
it to him.
Minor had a great game.
Don't give it to him.
Okay. Whatever.
But anyways, we're going to talk about a few guys here. We're going to play a little game with you guys. Basically, it is trade, cut, or keep. And I want to talk about a little bit of that with all three of you guys with different names. I'm going to say the name, and I want you guys to talk with me here on your opinions of what we should do with this certain player. Step one here, we're going to go with pitcher Danny Duffy.
All right. He's 4-3 with 1.85 ERA, 32 years old. Just give him a chance to string a few more good games together, and then you must trade him.
You're saying trade before the trade deadline.
You have to trade him.
So high is what you're saying.
Absolutely. It's a rebuild time. I mean, if you're 10.5 games out of first, you got to make a decision here.
Yeah.
And at this point, the best way that you can get value down the road is to trade all your best players.
He doesn't want to leave. He wants to, bury him in Royal. But unfortunately, business comes into play.
He's got to go.
I'd say keep Danny Duffy. Yes, he has a little injury history. He is 32, but you need some kind of veteran presence in that bullpen right now, let alone just period on that team.
Like, do you mean just like pitching?
Well, pitching wise. So okay. Starters and
I get you.
relievers, right?
Yeah,
so you need a vet presence. He just came back from his injury through 2 scoreless innings, so he's still looking really well. He'll be able to throw more come next time for a start, as long as he's feeling all right. I still say you got to keep Danny Duffy. The Danny Duffy is still a key for that starting rotation. And he's a key for those young guys in the bullpen, especially when we start bringing up guys like Daniel Lynch and Kohar and all those guys. So I'd say keep Danny Duffy. That's my take.
Yeah, I obviously love Danny Duffy. Nothing about him at all I dislike. I love everything about him for the most part. But he's also owed $15.5 million this season, which is crazy. He's also, 1.85 or 1.85 ERA this season, as Jason pointed out there. And so, my opinion, he's 1 year left on his deal. Just trade him while his value is at its highest point, and let's move on. Hopefully, get something of value for the future to go along with him.
Quick question. So obviously, you guys are in the hey, we're gonna give up stage, kind of give trade our players.
Sell the farm.
Sure.
Who would come into play? Do you have anybody in mind? Who would come in?
Depends on the team. The team would be interested in him,
No,
I want to get prospects.
You're not gonna. Yeah, you're just gonna get prospects.
I want prospects.
But who currently on the Royals minor league team?
Bring back Daniel Lynch.
You bring back Daniel
Just
Lynch.
bring back Daniel Lynch.
Yeah, I'm
Roll
all
with
for
it.
Daniel Lynch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Accept
all
the
for
losses
it.
when they come.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go for the future here and move on.
Get some
from
experience in there from those guys.
Next guy on my list here is Adalberto Mondesi. Now, obviously, as you guys know, the injury history behind him and some of the issues we've had with that. Obviously, a very talented player. He's got potential to be a superstar if he just get himself together physically. But what is your thought, Jason?
I hope my mom is not listening to this show because that is her favorite player. I'm not going to give him his due right here. I'm actually going to call him Raul Mondesi Jr.
Thank you
I'm not
very
going to
much.
call him by his real
His
name.
real name, Raul Mondesi.
I understand he's batting 361 this year, but he played like 3 games. So he's got a 254 career batting average, and you can't trade him before the deadline now because he's not worth anything.
Yep.
So I do want to trade him, but my hope is that we can kind of figure out a way to like up his value by next year, maybe trade him at the end of this season. I want to trade him as soon as we can, but he's got to at least show up to a few games and build his value a little bit before we can trade him. But I'm trading that guy the first chance I get. Raul Mondesi Jr.
Thank you.
Don't call him Adalberto, Tanner. I'm serious.
Yep.
He
All
doesn't deserve that.
With it.
Look, Mondesi, the guy, as we see when he plays, he's explosive, right? We know the guy can hit bombs. He's great on the bases. He's great in the field. He just needs to stay healthy. Here's what I propose we do. And I could be crazy. It could just be a waste of time. I say we keep him. I put him on the rest of the year IL. Let him get his body straight. But who do we bring up, right? Who do we bring up to take place of Adalberto Mondesi? Do we keep Nicky Lopez in the lineup?
Yes.
Is that effective?
Yes.
Do we bring up Bobby Witt?
I want Bobby Witt bad.
You guys are both wrong. We bring up Alcides Escobar up from AAA.
Oh,
The guy has
wait, hold
5.
on.
Yes.
Hold on. What's your-
Wait,
What are you
okay,
doing
I
again?
know what he's
Say it
saying.
again. What are you doing
He
again?
wants to pair him with the old
With
school
Merrifield.
Greg Holland.
No,
Greg Holland.
no. This is not.
He's
Greg,
pairing him with all the old
I
school
hope Greg
Royals.
Holland burns somewhere. Okay, I hope Greg
right.
Holland burns somewhere. Just getting that out there.
Alcides Escobar.
Alcides Escobar is having a hell of a minor league year so far. The guy has 5 home runs. He's batting .278 in the AAA right now after 100 at bats. And the guy has also stolen 6 bases. Yes, it's less than everybody else that's been in AAA, but the guy has been explosive. He's still making plays like he's never made plays before. And there's no sense of bringing a Bobby Witt in this situation to take place of this. There's no sense of it. If you're going to be down, keep Bobby Witt where he's at. AA, maybe bring him back up to AAA, maybe bring him to AAA into Omaha, but put Alcides Escobar in that lineup and take Mondesi and just put him on the IL. Forget it. Just put him on the IL.
I agree with you. Bring up Alcides Escobar. But more importantly, I want to ask you a question here. Is Raul Mondesi Jr., is he the Anthony Davis of Major League Baseball?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I wish I was better with knowledge of Anthony Davis. I know what you're referring to, but I think that it's maybe
He's a
not the best.
He's a
Potential-
superstar.
Right, but always injured.
I'd
I
say
understand.
potential superstar because the guy
understand.
can't stay healthy.
Here's my
Right?
thing.
Puts up the numbers.
He does.
Here's my thing
Same
with
Mondesi.
Mondesi that we're going to get screwed on the end of this is that Mondesi is coming up on 26 years old. I don't know if you guys realize that. He's actually coming up on 26 years old as of July. So we're talking about the guy, we're all talking about him being young or whatever, but he has never done shit for the Royals franchise that amounted to anything at this point in his career. So now I love Mondesi, what he does on the field. This year he's actually batting .361, which sounds amazing, but it's only 36 at-bats. So put that into some perspective. But also, if you take away those first 2 years he had with the Royals back in 2016, 2017, take away those at-bats, his average then comes up to closer to like the 280, 290 range, which is amazing. That's a great batting average, absolutely. My biggest thing with Mondesi is that right now we're going to be paying him $2.52 million this season. After that, it goes to arbitration. And so the Royals are going to be having Mondesi on this team for at least the next 3 years. And at that point, he's going to be, if he does somehow stay healthy for the first time in his career, then all of a sudden he's going to be wanting shitloads of money, which the Royals should not be paying to an injured guy like him at 29 years old at that point of his career. Hell no. I say ride it out, keep him, but do not pay him when it comes time for his contract to be up. That's my thoughts on Mondesi at the moment.
Interesting.
So after that, we have a guy we just paid, as a matter of fact. Oh, Mr. Hunter Dozier himself. What a frustrating player he's been all year.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I don't know how else to say it. Like, we were coming up on mid-season here, and his averages is still 150. I mean, you guys help me out here because I'm not even going to look at the numbers.
156.
Thank you. That's amazing. That's amazingly bad. He just signed a brand new deal. My thing with him is don't trade him or whatever. Just demote him. He needs to go back down to AAA for a while and just sit back for a bit and just deal with that. So you guys go
Well,
ahead.
the name of this game is trade or keep, and my
Trade,
vote.
keep, or cut.
Yeah,
I'm going to demote
well,
if I'm just going to do a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
demote.
you can
Yeah,
demote
that's
him,
fine.
but if it's
Cut,
trade or
demote.
keep, I'm going with keep because you have no other choice. He's batting 156. More importantly, his career average is 238. So probably not going to trade this guy because you're not
No
going to get
value.
any value whatsoever. So I'm going to keep Hunter Dozier.
I think for what we've seen in the past with Hunter Dozier, there's more upside than the guy coming up that we're going to talk about. I just think if you had to choose between a few players on the team, Hunter Dozier is one of the top ones that stays. He'll. I just think there's time to figure out. He had a bad injury against the White Sox when he collided with Jose Abreu. He's also had injuries as well this year. It has not been a great year for him. And I think it's just really unfortunate. It's kind of like the Alex Gordon deal in the first year of his. And it's just kind of what it's turning up to be. A little better than Alex Gordon at the time, but there's a lot of challenges still ahead. But he's at least trying to adjust his swing. You guys may not see it right away, but he is working on trying to switch things up because he's aware that it's not freaking working. So now he's trying new things. So at least the guy's trying, unlike the guy we're going to talk about coming up.
Right.
Keep him, is what I'm saying.
Okay. The guy we're talking about coming up, you guys probably guessed it just by Tanner's take right there. Mr. Jorge Soler himself, probably one of the laziest players in all of baseball at this point. I got a big problem with him, as a matter of fact, because the guy goes out just 2019, put up 48 home runs.
Beats the Royals record.
Breaks the Royals record, destroys it, as a matter of fact. It was set by Mike Moustakas. And the thing was, he played all 162 games that season, Tanner. He didn't miss a single game.
Nope.
Now, he's lazy as hell, as we talked about. He's batting 183 so far this season on 260 at-bats. Currently only has 6 home runs on those numbers right there. If you were to equate those back to what he did 2 previous years, he would be at a total for the entire season of 18 home runs, Tanner. That's not good for what we're getting him to do, because we don't expect him to be a great fielder. He plays outfield. We're not expecting him to go out there and just make all kinds of plays. We're expecting him to hit home runs. That's what he's been brought in here to do, is be the power guy. But if you guys look at his numbers over the course of his career coming from the Cubs, the most home runs he ever had in one season before 2019 was 12 home runs in one season. Part of that problem was due to injuries, due to him not being on the field, but also part of the problem was that the guy is just lazy. Like, I don't know how to describe this guy more than anything. Like, I don't know how he hit 48, but also he led the entire league in strikeouts in 2019 as well. 178 strikeouts in one season. So it's either boom or bust.
Sounds like a home run hitter.
For Jorge Soler. But here's the biggest problem, Tanner. He's played 66 games so far this season for the Royals. He's at 74 strikeouts. Mm-hmm. So he's on pace with less games played to break that 178 that he had just 2 previous years ago, but with a fraction of the home runs he had. Like, Soler, to me, get his ass out of here. Trade him for whatever the hell he's worth. Give me a 25th round pick. I don't give a damn. Just get him off the team right now, and I'm done with him, and it's over for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you can trade him right now, that'd be great. The problem is he sucks. So it's kind of like Hunter Dozier. Like, there's no trade value there. My hope for him would be to just go ahead and keep him, and maybe somebody can light a fire under his ass, and he can have one good season, just one good season, and then I'll trade his ass. Because he is 29 years old, and so even though he's a lazy player, it's possible that he could turn it around and have one good season. Same thing with Hunter Dozier, in my opinion. I mean, you keep these guys if they have a good year. Same thing with Mondesi. They have a good year, then you get your value and trade them the next year.
That's fair. So Jorge Soler, to me, is a guy that is not trying to change his swing because we're not seeing any progression. We're not seeing any more home runs, essentially. I mean, I think he hit one the other day. He had a nice double a couple weeks ago. But you could do that based off your normal swing. Like, squirrel finds his nut every now and then. So you got to think about that stuff. Jorge Soler is not trying to change anything up, it seems like, unlike Hunter Dozier, who was trying. So for me, I would say designate Jorge Soler, cut him, right, essentially. And then you bring up the guy, Kyle Isabel, who started the season with us, who has worked on his stats and everything. The guy's hitting 270 in AAA right now, 19 home runs, 78 rubies. That's his career stats. My bad, guys. He is, though, playing a hell of a game right now. He does have so Isabel does have 15 strikeouts, which what you're kind of not looking for, but he is 9 for 20 or 24. So it doesn't sound great percentage wise, though. It's looking really good. The guy scored 5 runs, so he's getting on base. He's scoring rubies. I say let's bring Kyle Isabel back up, continue his experience with the Royals, get rid of Jorge Soler because Kyle Isabel can be more of a team player than that.
All right, guys, let's see how this unfolds. I'm curious to see what the Royals do at the trade deadline. But we have some bad news also that came from Chiefs Kingdom here recently. And that was about Frank Clark over the past weekend here, where he was actually arrested in LA with a submachine gun. It's interesting because it's one of those guys that's also had troubles in the past. Do you guys remember he was kicked off of Michigan football team at one point?
Yep.
He had a 2012 home invasion charge. He had issues in Seattle. He's having issues here in Kansas City. He's been suspended before for different things. And I'm just concerned about the pass rush of the Chiefs going forward within this season. Now, I'm thinking the suspension that could come here potentially is going to be somewhere between 1 to 3 games based on past experiences of other players. But at the same time, I don't think the Chiefs should have been done to begin with because I feel like guys like Clark were not productive enough as it is for the price they're getting paid. I think there's guys out there like Melvin Ingram still available, Tanner.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Houston still available. Everson Griffin, even though he's 33 years old, still available.
Can I kind of break news real quick?
What's that?
I overheard today possibly that Justin Houston might be signing with the Minnesota Vikings as of tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. You might have heard it here first. You might not have.
Well, I would hope that's not the case. I hope the Chiefs would have been at least giving him an offer anyway. I'd love to see him come for one more year to the Chiefs again, hopefully get a ring. But yeah, I just think there's options out there. I think the Chiefs need to make a move at some point to bring in someone else because we can't rely on just Chris Jones and then hopefully Taco Charlton pans out on the other side if Frank Clark has to miss games or even for that matter is not productive or gets injured. The outside edge rush of this team is a liability at the moment. So that's my current issue with what's going on with Frank Clark out there with his arrest issues. So what do you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Justin Houston would be the guy to bring in, but if he's already taken, then we're screwed on that. But
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, Mike. We should have been looking to add no matter what. As far as Frank Clark's situation's concerned, they noticed a duffel bag in his car. And my biggest question is, why was it even visible? Because he said the police could see the gun in the back of his car, and I know he was out there in Los Angeles, but what was he driving through? Was he driving through Compton, California, or what? Because he should have just kept that gun hidden in the trunk, and then he would have never had a problem. But
he said it was on as a security team, I guess. It was owned by his security team, and that's why it was there. But I mean, you know how these things go.
Yeah, my only thought about Frank Clark is he's got a ring. And so I think we need him on the team. I hope that they only suspend him for 2 games. But we do need a little bit more depth there on the D-line. But, yeah, I mean, I hope we only lose him for 2 games. But, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of it's a difficult situation. Too bad that it happened. But I don't want to think too much about it because, again, the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about Frank Clark is champion. He's a world champion. So
he was productive in the playoffs for the Super Bowl run that the Chiefs had. He absolutely, I think he had, maybe 4 sacks throughout that whole thing. So he showed up in the postseason, absolutely. Yeah. We need more production out of him in the regular season, absolutely, that too. So same time, we need health. We need him to be on the field. We need him to make plays, get more pressure from the front 4.
And this might be the one thing that just fires him up a little bit. If he does get suspended for 2 games, that might be enough to just piss him off a little bit to get him to perform better in the regular season.
All right, I think you guys are taking a performance issue a little too serious here because I don't think it necessarily was him. I think it was just a scheme that was made. A lot of people didn't have to go to the other side very much, so we got to think about that. Anyways, Frank Clark, guys, I don't have really a lot to think about here. I don't think we need to go out and sign a Melvin Ingram or Justin Houston or anybody like that. I think we're fine with what we got. If we're going to survive 2 or 3 games, I think we can survive 2 or 3 games. We got healthy Taco Charlton coming back. Mike Dana's over there. Chris Jones can bounce to any side. And I bet you Jaron Reed can bounce up to the edge too. Right? Like, there's possibility there. And we got depth in the middle with Tershawn Wharton. Like, we got guys on that D-line right now for depth, which we haven't had for a long time, that can probably perform at any position along that line. Right? Noddy can tackle the nose. We got Tershawn Wharton who can tackle the nose, and Tershawn can actually probably bounce on the outside because he's gotten in a lot better shape. So I'm not worried about signing anybody different. I'm not worried about the Chiefs' depth for 1 to 3 games. I think we'll have enough weapons on that line, and I think Spags will also take care of schemes and stuff to take care of that, baby.
This will be a preseason to watch because we're going to try to find that pass rusher throughout watching some games.
Correct.
That's going to be something to keep an eye on because we're going to want one guy we can rely on. Just rush the passer.
To know that it's going to be there. So as far as the Frank Clark situation goes, what upsets me the most is that you put your team in this situation, because we seem to be in a situation every offseason, whether it's media or not. Yeah, kind of a Brashad Breeland take, right? So it's really unfortunate to see this happen. I'm hoping NFL investigation just clears it out and we call it good. Hopefully it's not what it seems and just hype going around. So as far as the Chiefs, I have no concerns on the Chiefs as far as D-line and rushing the quarterback. I think Spags will take care of it. Reed will take care of it. I got no worries.
Well, you guys, any final thoughts before we end the show and watch some basketball?
I have a lot of final thoughts, actually, real quick. So we're 10 minutes left in the second quarter. Phoenix is losing to the Clippers so far. It's 29-23. Oh, Phoenix just scored 29-26.
Yeah, the game's on the TV, Jason.
The Clippers have built a little bit of a lead here, but so far, my prediction, all of you out there that listen to this show, you place bets based on my expert advice. Chris Paul is 0 for 4 from the field. Devin Booker, not to be confused with Devontae Booker, is 1 for 7.
1 for 7.
So the superstars on the Suns are playing like shit. But the game's not over yet.
It's also the second quarter, so let's let things play out, you guys. All right, well, anyways, you guys, thank you so much for joining in again here on an odd night for us to be doing this. And this is a good thing. We'll be coming out on Friday morning for everyone. And so that's good. Give you guys a good kickoff to your weekend. Go have some margaritas and some whiskey. And have some good old fun that way. So give us a follow, though, at Sports Buffoons on our Twitter, YouTube. Like I said, give us a like and subscribe, please. We'll be here all football season long, as well as the rest of the NBA playoffs. So with all that said, you guys, I'll see you out on the next one.
All right, guys, we are out.
See you guys.